That it looked much smoother on my screen. In 2022, I graduated from the Maryland Institute College of Art with a BFA in drawing. It was not a very popular degree. I was one of two in my year to graduate with it, and it actually no longer exists. A lot of my focus is in drawing, specifically figurative. A lot of it is on this cotton vellum surface, and I have a big appreciation for that material because of its historical roots to being made from skin, and because of its semi-translucent properties, I'm able to work on both sides of the paper. A lot of my influences and research comes from horror movies. I sketch from them, I study them. Exorcism and ritual purification is a big focus in my work. I think whether it be at the hands of family, illness, government, a lot of us in this room can relate to having to fight for the ability to be in control of your own body. A lot of my process goes from sketching, drawing from life, photographs, and then sketching from those photographs combined with sketching from life onto drawing from a combination of sketching from sketches or drawing from sketches, photographs, and life. I start a lot of times with charcoal powder and a paintbrush, and I kind of loosely, gesturally apply it to paper and then go back and forth with additive and subtractive mark. In this piece, I kind of started exploring what I like to think of as passive performance, where I don't know how well you guys can see, but as I'm drawing, the charcoal was pooling onto the paper and I was barefoot while drawing on the drawing. So footprints and pools of charcoal start to gather. This is kind of a continuation into that idea where I am using the charcoal powder with the paintbrush to draw onto the paper, which is set up vertically. So the charcoal falls continuously onto the paper below it and then into this bowl, which collected charcoal dust, eraser shavings, and then as I was working, I would wash my hands in the water and then dry them off on this towel. I got into monotypes and printmaking kind of as a way of taking that additive and subtractive mark and kind of shrinking it down. I found when I drew on a smaller scale with pencil or charcoal, it kind of got a little too tight for me and wasn't a very good representation of my larger work. But with printmaking, I was able to retain that gestural mark at a smaller scale. The one actual printmaking class that I got to take in person was lithography, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It was kind of a way of merging drawing with printmaking, where I was drawing onto a stone with a grease crayon and then taking that stone and printing it onto paper. And I actually got to do a publication with Familia Print Press, which is sadly no longer in Dallas, but I published a series of monotypes alongside Ben Munoz and Richie Pena, which was an incredible experience I'm super grateful for. And then in my future at the Cedars Union, I'm kind of further exploring that idea of passive performance, where I've started taking both antique, vintage and modern dress patterns and combining them in a way to fabricate a white dress in reference to sacramental garments. And then as I'm drawing, I'm gonna be wearing the dress and then using the dress to build reference imagery. So that's kind of my first project I've started on. Thanks for watching.
What's the cat's name?
Behemoth.
Does she get along with Theodora?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
That's okay.
So, love your work, first of all. Second of
Thank
all,
you.
what's your favorite horror movie?
Ooh, I mean, The Exorcist is kind of like, that's it, you know? Dogtooth is probably a close second.
I have like an art question. Do you ever use color?
Weirdly, so a lot of times drawing is kind of seen as that first step into creating a piece. A lot of my sketches are like with color. I use gouache to sketch, and so I don't really present them as like final pieces, but what I consider kind of like my sketching is I'll take like stills from horror movies and paint those with gouache, and those have color. And so sometimes I use color, but more as like a beginning, and then I transfer it to black and white.
In the art world, kind of outlined in the red, and I started.
If you do, please comparison. You do these things so you feel a connection to the person. Like I said, I came from Nicaragua when I was a little kid. And I'm gonna read like what I wrote here, as a lot of my colleagues are. All right, well,
So my goal for Cedars Union, not respond, but you can follow me if you want.
so here's a little bit about what I've published in the past.
We were talking about this the other time. Yeah, I would love to.
It looks much smoother on my screen.